Welcome back. We're talking about the 5 foundations of economics, and one of these foundations is that there always exist trade-offs. And the reason we have trade-offs is because we live in a world of scarcity. If I spend $10 today on a pizza, it means I'm not spending that $10 on something else. Similarly, the fact that you're here in class today, that you're watching this lecture video, means you're not spending that time doing something else. This leads us to the concept of opportunity cost. And what opportunity cost is a way of quantifying those trade-offs we talked about on the last slide. So again, think about what you gave up to sit here today and watch this lecture video. Now, you could have done a lot of things other than watch this lecture video. You could have spent time with your parents or your dog. You could have gone for a run outside. Maybe instead of taking Core 180, you could have taken a different course in the 3-week. Now, the problem is all of these other alternatives can get to be intractable. There's infinite other things you could be doing. So how can we quantify these trade-offs? How can we put a value to it? And the answer is opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative. Now, because you're here in Core 180 today, I have to assume, I'm a behavioralist, I have to assume that this must have been your best alternative. And certainly that can be because of some sort of negative incentive, like if you don't come to class today, you might get a bad grade. That might be motivating your behavior. But whatever it is that's motivating your behavior, coming to class right now is your best alternative, and you are giving up the value of your next best alternative. So on your own, think about what's the opportunity cost, not just of being in Core 180, but attending Sweetbriar overall. So press pause on your video and we'll come back in a second. Our next economic foundation is marginal thinking. And what marginal thinking does is, now that we have this quantity of trade-off, we've quantified it in the sense of opportunity cost, we can really narrow in on what the scope of our analysis should be. And when you hear the word marginal, what you should be thinking is additional. And the reason why is because there's uncertainty in this world. We don't have all the information moving forward. So when we go out to eat a pizza, we don't start out by thinking, I'm going to eat exactly 3.5 pieces of pizza. We eat one, and then we decide if we're still hungry, and then we eat a little bit more, and then we eat a little bit more until we're full. And we use this exact same decision process to talk about all sorts of other choices. For instance, how many hours to work on our project here in Core 180, or whether a football team wants to go for it on 4th down. In this class, we're going to do a simple example of how many waffles should we eat. And we'll see here that for each waffle we eat, we get some benefit. And that benefit we can think of as the opposite of a cost. So eating a waffle gives us some amount of happiness, and it still costs us some amount to eat a waffle. So for that first waffle, we get $6 of happiness, and it only costs us $3.05 to eat a waffle. And you'll see that the cost of eating a waffle doesn't change, but the amount of happiness we get does. Now, you might think you just want to eat waffles as long as you have positive benefit from it. But the problem is, at some point, the cost exceeds the benefit. So using the principle that we want to consume until marginal benefit equals marginal cost, we'll see here that we would only eat 2 waffles. The problem is we don't want to eat that third waffle where marginal cost exceeds marginal benefit, which means we're going to only eat 2 waffles in this scenario. So let's close out this lecture with another pause and think sort of question. So use these economic foundations we've been talking about, incentives, trade-offs, opportunity cost, and marginal thinking, to analyze the following situations. First off, when you buy a newspaper from a vending machine or pick up a free newspaper from a stand, you note that there's a lot of different copies sitting there. So do you take one or do you take more than one? Why might you take the amount you chose? So you don't have to tell me, but on your own, think about how you can analyze this question using those economic concepts. And secondly, can you explain buying and selling your textbook using the foundations we were talking about? So that's it for this video. We'll bring it back in the next one.